Hello, welcome to the history of bodyboarding. I've just put together some historical stuff here, and I thought maybe since we're all self-isolating right now, you might want to just get in some chit chat about it. So I put together a couple little things. I think it's probably going to go pretty long, and I don't think you have that much time, so I put it in several different parts. Like right now I'll talk about the early days of 1975-ish to 1981, and then I'll go into my Bodyboard International magazine days. And I went through, and I'm so excited. I went through and I found all the the original one, and a bunch of copies. You know how we're all sitting around right now, and so you're kind of going through stuff and organizing stuff. So I found a good collection of magazines, and I'll feature some of you if you're in the chat room. I'll feature you in the magazines and do a little shout out to you. And I also found HCB. Do you remember that? The rag magazine. This one's all about fearless femmes. I did a whole one on all girls. Yay. And then I'll go into the BIA, which will be circa 1991 on my third part. So I think I'm going to just be able to get through the first one tonight because it's long. Well, we did a lot of well, I see Joe Evans here. He was one of my early pros who went on the road with me and literally promoted this thing, the first ambassador. So I'll start there with, and if anyone wants to call in and make a comment or ask a question, I put the number up there in the chat room. So feel free to call in. Thank you, Joe. Well, this sitting around doing nothing, you kind of just been eating, a lot of eating. I was wondering, someone said, are you going to be an alcoholic when you're done? Are you going to be fatter when you're done? Are you going to, be local when you're done? And can we be all of the above when we're done with this thing? But anyway, so in the back here is a picture of 1976. So we'll start with the early days of Morey Boogie. And I got the good pleasure of running into Tom. I knew him in Hawaii with Marcia, his wife, who's now still his wife. We used to body surf and raft at Branicki's on Kauai, and Tom surfed out at Tahiti Longhouse and out in there. And he would come into my bakery. I had a health food bakery, and Tom would come in there, and so he loved my cookies, and I was called the cookie lady. And all the surfers used to come in and munch on my big 10-cent oatmeal cookies about that big. Well, anyway, fast forward 8 years later, they went to Costa Rica. I was going to college and working as a waitress on my way to be a lawyer. And I ran into Tom in Carlsbad, California. This is where this whole thing started. And I got there because I was a OC girl from Orange County, Costa Mesa, and I wanted to get away from my ex-husband. So I went down to a mile away or an hour away, and I ran into Carlsbad, California. Well, lo and behold, what are you saying? I bet you have a few old something. Yeah, we got some old stories. We like to talk stories. Oh, I bet you have some old boards somewhere. Yeah, we've got a few boards. But anyway, so I run into Tom of all places. We lived a block away from each other in Carlsbad, California. Now, I don't know if you guys believe in the divine or, serendipitous moments or whatever it is, but what was the chances of Tom Morey, the inventor, for those of you that are young and are going to watch this later, the inventor of the boogie board lived a block away from me. And here I'd moved down from Orange County. Well, we reunited. He goes, what are you doing in Carlsbad? And I said, well, I'm taking some law classes, and I got a little 2-year-old boy, and they had a 2-year-old boy. And he goes, well, you're going to need to come to work for me. I'm opening up a boogie shop over here in Carlsbad, to make boogie boards. I go, I can't do that. I got to finish these classes. But my sister, Debbie, we don't say too much about Debbie Caldwell, but Debbie Caldwell, probably the best shaper in the world, is my sister. And she went to work for Tom first, a couple months before me. Anyway, I go down to the plant, and you know what? If any of you want a dream job, go work what you love. And I loved the ocean. I lived on the beach. I'm got, you know, real nice skin these days because I spent my whole entire life on the beach. Anyway, what a dream job to work for a surf company, you might say. Even though we call it a bodyboarding company, to me, it was just all about the ocean. So I'm sitting there, all Tom wanted me to do was answer the phones. And so he's hearing me talk to these people in these surf shops like Eddie's up in, ET surfboards up in Hermosa. Oh, I was talking to Jack's Surf Shop. A lot of these shops, you guys know, Ron John's out on the East Coast. And he goes, you know what, Patti? I really like the way you talk to people. Do you think you could get out on that Morey Boogie van and go, talk to some of these accounts? No. I don't like sales. No. I don't like sales. No, Tom. No, you got to go. We've got a couple people in the plant. We've got a couple people here. Louise can answer the phones. You've got to go. And so I went out on the boogie van up to these shops, and I was scared. I was so afraid. I didn't know even how to open my mouth to talk. Remember, this is something new. Sales is new to me. So I figured out a way. In fact, I actually started a training course way later, 40 years later, on sales, and it implemented some of the ways that I sold Morey Boogie boards. The same sales is sales is sales. The way I sold the boogie boards was the same way I was selling years later. So I developed that out on the road in these early days. And I would go in and just kind of make friends with the surf shops, get to know the manager, and then leave. Never said anything about Morey Boogie, nothing, because I was too afraid. Because they were surfers, remember? These were surf shops. They didn't like spongers. So I would leave because I was so afraid. And I'd come back to Tom, go, how much did you sell? And I go, none. He goes, come on, Patti. Well, I finally figured it out. I was going to have to go in and make friends with these guys. I parked the boogie van right in front of the shop. And they go, oh, you're from Morey Boogie? I kind of wanted to order a couple of those. Okay. All right. So then I would take these orders. Tom was happy. We're getting orders. Now he's got some other guys, Rick Lawrence and Clark Cedarval out on the East Coast, and a bunch of people, names, if you follow the history, you've probably heard. And Johnny Cash, some of you might know him. But anyway, for those of you that never followed the history, this was the pivotal point. We started getting orders, orders, not just running a little magazine and selling these kit boards, that were just, they made themselves. We were now making boards in the factory. So Tom said, I want you to go out, or no, he asked me, he says, what do you think we could do to open up the East Coast? Kind of like how you've opened up the West Coast. And I said, well, I think, and I don't know if you can see it back here or not, but there's a little, like a real estate flag right there. I took 4 poles, some real estate flags, and put 30 boards out there, and I corralled all these kids on the beach. And this was actually my first public speaking engagement. This is actually how I learned how to public speak. I would get up there and tell these kids all about these boogie boards. And no, you can't ride them until you hear the pitch. And then they would get all excited, and I would let the first round go out, and then I'd fill the next group of kids in on the beach there and let them go out. And so this happened all day. My skin literally, in that picture there, I don't know if you can see it, but I probably could have gotten it a little bit. Let's see if I can get it up a little bit bigger. Yeah. I'm in a hat and long sleeves and long shirt. And I told these kids, I go, I don't go to the beach like this, but I was so sunburned. And so anyway, that was really fun. Think about it for a minute. How perfect is that, to have a job just to sit on the beach and you stoke people on bodyboarding? It doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. I really have had a truly blessed life, because those were the days. And so then Tom goes, okay, well, that's good. You're out there stoking people. Now, Patti, you need to figure out how to sell them. Oh, sales, that's right. So I said, okay, I called up these surf shops and I said, would you consider buying like 3 boards? I'm going to be out in your area. No, nobody wanted them. I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this promotion out there in Virginia Beach, Cocoa Beach, Delaware, Long Island. I was all out on the East Coast. No, I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to mail you 3 or ship you 3 boards because that's what fit in the boxes. This is the original UPS bodyboard box was 3. So I'm going to send you 3 on consignment, and I'm going to sell them for you. Okay. And I don't have to pay for them until they sell? No, you don't have to pay for them until they sell. So I went out on the beach, and while I was out there talking to these kids, I would tell them, okay, now tell your parents to go down to Kite World, go down to Ron John's, go down wherever I'd send these. And they would go running in there. They were so stoked. Now, you remember your first ride on a bodyboard? Remember it? I remember my very first ride. I was so stoked. I was laughing and smiling like Tom said, enjoy a Morey Boogie. Oh, I enjoyed a Morey Boogie, let me tell you. So that's what I wanted. I want them to have so much fun. They were going to go down to these surf shops and buy one. Well, they did. And the 3 wasn't enough. And these shop owners were calling back to Tom going, I need 12, I need 16, I need, and all of a sudden the whole East Coast opened up. And now we're not being able to ship all these boards because so many people got stoked. And, you know, for me to do that with people like the names that you'll hear, Roger Waller, Scott Evans, Tony Prince, Joe Evans, some of these people that are still around today that we still have these little 40-year reunions, those were the guys that helped me lift those boards down to the beach and go out with the kids and ride with them and teach them. And you know what? I'm going to just insert one little sidebar here from my legal, you know, my little law hat. That's what we need to do today. You know, you see all these pro events and all this stuff and the industry kind of twiddling, you know, diminishing off. We need to go back and stoke those kids. Look at those kids. They were listening intently there, listening to every word I said. They wanted to know. These kids still want to know. There's young kids that we have to stoke. Now, that's where we're at. That's where we have to go today. So, I mean, that's a little history of just my first initial getting started. And like I said, type in a question, or if I missed anything, or if there's a part of that era that, you know, I missed, let me know. But I'm going to go down here now to about 1977. And we had, now we're sitting, there's a picture of Tom Morey there. That was holding his original kit board. He was quite a waterman. For those of you who don't know Tom's history, it's just amazing. But this particular era here was, I had created the contest. Tom, you know, said, you know, I remember he said, you have this background in outrigger canoeing from Hawaii, and you've put on regattas and blah, 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 blah. Could you do that with bodyboarding? And I go, well, yeah, let's just go do some boogie events. So we started doing some boogie events. Next thing you know, we're doing AAA, AA, you know, and just amateur, all amateur. And I called Tony Prince and Scott Evans, Roger, and a couple guys over to my house in Carlsbad. And I said, you know what? You're moving through this AAA division like really fast. I think we need to go. I think we need to go pro. So if you hear anyone saying I was the first pro, or pro, nope. The Western Boogie Association right here, my friends, 1977. We created the first pro division. And to get in the pro division, you had to win a AAA. So you worked up from A, AA, AAA. And then all of a sudden we had a heat, which was, I think we started with 3. And I think if Roger or Scott or anyone chimes in on this, we can find out who won that first event. I think it was Roger Waller. The story goes, this story in the 20th issue of Bodyboarding magazine, this story, Spreading the Fire, was my whole, trip around the United States doing all the events and everything. And I believe this story has the first winner. And so I will type that in later as I read it. But that was called the Patti Serrano Trail, 1977 to 1981. That's kind of like what we're talking about right now. If you have any questions, be sure and type them in. So the WBA, Western Boogie Association, can you imagine? It wasn't even Western Boogie Board Association. It was the Western Boogie. I look back on it now. Well, Scott had this picture there. That's Scott's actual membership card. He sent that to me so I could see what it looked like. And there it was, Western Boogie Association, 1977, where he lived in Carlsbad, and executive officer Patti Serrano. So we got it going. And I'm not saying this in any kind of bragging way, but to think about it for just a moment, to be on the threshold of something really big. Do you have any idea at 74 years old how that feels to me? To go back, almost 50 years and relive all this? It was the most amazing time. The early days of what we know bodyboarding now was one of the most amazing times. It was almost like a cult. Because I remember the first event that I had up in El Porto in Manhattan Beach. I don't know how those people got there. We didn't have social media. Word got out in the, the South Bay area, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, El Porto, Manhattan, that this lady was coming down with some boogie board t-shirts, and all these kids showed up, and I'm like, I don't know how that happened. But it was like, looking back on it, when I look at those videos, it was like a cult. I mean, these people were hardcore. And, we went right up against the surfers. They did not like the idea that there were some spongers, boogie boarders, whatever, boogie boarders entering the water. Now, I don't know if you have that stigma today, but that's what we were dealing with back in the 70s. Let me just keep scrolling here. Okay, so this was a fun one. At one point during my Morey Boogie career, I wish that would come in. I got too much light coming in. That's the Morey Boogie Holly Eva contest. December 18th, 1977. Were you there? I know there's some people that can claim they were there. Well, Tom had asked me, Tom, wait. No, we got to go. This was after this one. I got a good memory on this stuff. This was after this one. This one was sponsored by Tom Morey and Company. Tom actually went to this. And Tom wasn't really big on contests. For him to ask me to put on events was very strange, because he had put on a couple surfing events, but he had never really was sure about putting on these boogie board events. And I remember going over to Hawaii. Now, those of you that are listening in from Hawaii probably can't comprehend this, but it was like an invasion, because we were now hitting the lineup. And the Hawaiians are very particular, and they've got their I mean, I'm sure it's in your area too where you bodyboard, but in Hawaii it was a little bit different. So we went out, we decided to have it at Holly Eva, and it really was a good event. And that's the entry form from the Holly Eva event. And so that was really, really fun. Now, as the popularity started spreading, I got sent back out to the East Coast again, and now I'm taking some of the AAA riders because they earned it. You know, ones that earned it. If you won an event, you earned a trip to the East Coast with me. And so you saw a lot of these guys that are the pioneers today were part of this group that would travel. So there's a stack of boards there. Now we're talking about the 132 BEs, 133s, you know, that BE that you see on it. That was a stamp that we could tell what year we were out of, because Tom was a Baha'i, and the first ones were 132 BE of the Baha'i era. BE stands for Baha'i era, which is the religion that he follows. So some of these boards, these boards look like 132 BEs. The colors just remind me of some of the colors that came out, but they could be a little bit later model. But I'm there passing them out, and you know, you'd think we would lose a lot of them, but we'd lose maybe one per event, or, you know, it wasn't too bad. So that was how the Stoke got built in the early days of Morey Boogie. And then as time went on, we started doing bigger events. Now we were at the point where we were getting kind of too big for our britches. And so we started doing challenges, we called them. And Tom eventually had to sell around 79-ish to a company out of San Francisco named Kransco. And some of you are around in those days, and some of you are watching this video later will remember that. But Kransco had a lot of money, and they brought in me as their sports promotion director. And now I was going to go full on, no more sales. I got to do just events. Think about it. Think about that for a minute. If you loved the beach, you love the water, and you got a job just traveling, can you wrap your head around that? That's what I got to do. I mean, I was very blessed. And the John Rosecrans and John Bowes, who owned Kransco, gave me free reign to create whatever I wanted as far as sport promotion. Can you imagine? Can you imagine starting from a little event down in El Porto, Manhattan Beach, where we're sitting around giving out T-shirts, to now having airplanes flying by? I remember Joey Gibbs used to get on a windsurfer and go down the beach with the sun-kissed. It had a sail that had sun-kissed on it. I mean, we were getting sponsors like, you know, Sunkist Soda and the Gap. I mean, these were the days. You know, when you look at that Wrigley commercial, it just kept popping. And the enthusiasm and the Stoke and all that was just so exciting. So I got truly blessed to, you know, be a part of that. So that kind of took over my whole career with Morey Boogie and then Kransco. And then right up about 1981, I have a little 5-year thing that just, for some reason, my life goes in 5-year things. Now, who would quit something like that? Who would be that silly? But I was also on the side starting a band. Now, remember, I was young, so I was starting a band. I don't have any pictures of it right now, but and so I was wanting to do that. And so my band actually played at the championships, the Morey Boogie championships and all that. So that brings me kind of up to 1981. So I'd love to take your questions now. I'm sure there might be something just in that period. And you can type it into the chat room, or you can call 760-231 and 1235, and you will be on the line. But I'd love to hear from you, or anyone that was around, or anyone that has a question, or anyone that has a story, maybe that happened in Hawaii when I was over there, or on the East Coast while I was there. We'd love to hear it. And then I will close out this part 1 and come back either later on tonight and do the BIM or tomorrow, but it's just kind of that, isolation, stay at home thing right now. I thought, well, this would be a good time to talk to some bodyboarders and see if there's any questions they have about the history, because so many people, over the years have gotten into bodyboarding, and it literally has changed their lives. I know people that their lives were changed because of the bodyboard. And you know that Tom Morey, I sometimes I wonder when he goes to sleep at night if he realizes how many lives he's changed, because I know he changed mine. I told him on our last reunion about a year ago, we all went down the beach just to sit around, and I told him, I said, you are my mentor. You pushed me to learn sales, which I went on to do in my lifetime career, and then I went on to teach sales. I mean, some of this stuff from Boogie, can you imagine? Changed my life. So how did it change your life? I would love to hear from anyone that wants to call in or type in what was your first experience? What did you feel when you first took off on a wave? What was that feeling? Do you remember the feeling when you first took off on a wave? Because Tom wanted, the logo said enjoy Morey Boogie. It was all about enjoyment. And so Tom said, enjoy a Morey Boogie. It wasn't about compete and be number one and go on the world tour or anything. It was enjoy. This board was built to enjoy. And his vision was to have moms, dads, aunts, uncle, 3 or 4 bodyboards in a garage. That was his vision. He wanted to have everybody riding a board. It was that kind of a board. And so the sport kind of went in a whole bunch of different directions, and people in different age groups, and of course females and all of us, it went in a whole bunch of different directions, but that's what we're supposed to do. So give me a call. Somebody call in. Let's find out what's going on here. I've left the chat room. Hold on, let's go back here. I'm glad you're being Debbie into the conversation. She is a unsung hero. Absolutely. My sister Deb. Johnny Roberts, this is fantastic. Chris Cummings, got my 8 and 12-year-old boys into boogieing last year. All right, Chris. Joe, seems that Roger won the first one. Okay, Bobby's second, and I thought Joey Gibbs or Mike Lambresi was third. Okay, I think you're right. Yeah, it was Roger. I think it was Roger, Bobby, and Mike Lambresi, because remember that picture that's up on the history of bodyboarding page on Facebook has that picture. Yeah. And I remember Mike Lambresi, who also went on to be a big pro. He didn't like that. Okay. So, and there's Scott. Somebody call in 760-231-1235. Don't be shy. And don't play any jokes on me either. And let's talk history. This is what this is all about. Come on. You got to stay home anyway. Might as well talk story, right? Like they say in Hawaii. If you don't, I am going to close this one out and start the BIM one. The BIM one is going to be good because I've got the first one. I mean, when you see the transformation of BIM, it goes from Bodyboarder International Magazine to Big Bodyboarder, and then Big BIM. Because I was told in marketing, if you can get your business to be known by its acronym, you're there. Like KFC, or when people know by their acronym, then you've arrived. So when we got up to BIM, there was no other bodyboard magazines around, remember. Riptide came out a little bit later out of Australia. But okay, who wants to talk story with me? Does anybody have a good story? Because I've got story after story of history, but I'm really kind of sick of hearing my voice. So somebody please give us a call. I mean, usually, like, I'm the first one calling some show that says call in. But then I'm a chatty Patti too. So, so we're going to go over the magazine and highlight some of the stories in there. And then we're going to go over HCB. Some of you will remember that. That's Hardcore Bodyboarder. It was a magazine that I created that I could literally print for pennies. It was made out of newspaper. And the actual original reason was to insert it inside of BIM so it would thicken up the magazine, but I wouldn't have to pay for glossy stock. This is an insider story here. We wanted to get the magazine up to about 48 pages. And then, you know, it was $1.95. We wanted it to feel substantial. So we would insert these little HCBs in there and actually, you know, bind them into the magazine, and then you could pull them out. But they were all stories about people that didn't compete. If you competed, you probably were not in this magazine. This was hardcore. This was hardcore bodyboarding. And they were just pictures that people sent in. And just, you know, the graphics weren't that great. It was rough. It was a rag mag, you know. All right, so who wants to type in a question? Can somebody type in any kind of history question? Jordan, can't wait to hear the BIM stuff. You killed it on exposing the Santa Barbara All-Star crew. Oh yeah, that's one of the ones I wanted to do with the All-Stars. When I'm, yeah, that's one of the, I found the picture of the All-Stars in the magazine. So, yeah, but I wanted to start a separate call for BIM because I want to take them and go do something with them afterwards. But I just want to make sure I covered enough of the history and that you got enough knowledge of what was going on in those early days, because a lot of people don't know, you know, how this whole thing got started. And I kind of feel so honored to be there and be a part of it. I mean, how much better can it be? I mean, particularly when you see how, what do you call it? So into it. I mean, like even Jordan has what? His quiver's got about 800 bores. I mean, there are people really into it. And to see how many people are into it and to know that it was just this little, you know, spot here on the beach where we just I mean, how did it go from that where we just let these people ride them? Try it out. You know, see how we stoked them out. How did it go from that to so, I mean, God, to me, it's like almost like this coronavirus, you know, it just starts so little and then all of a sudden it's like, bam, it's all over the world. How's that happen? You know, well, I know that with the boogie board, it was a word of mouth. I mean, people were talking about it. It's kind of like the hula hoop. You know, everybody started doing the hula hoop, you know, and then the frisbee got really big. But anyway, I'd just like to take one call or answer one question. Could somebody just type something in? I want to just make sure I've covered everything. If there's any doubt on anything that you might, or you want to tell a story or something. If Scott Evans is still here, or Joe Evans, they really could be best served to call in. Oh, okay, looks like Joe had to leave. Okay, all right. But did I cover everything? Do you think I covered everything that I can remember from those days? I think I did. All right. Okay, so if you feel like you want to talk about BIM, I'm going to go ahead and close this one out and start a new live one. And so just, you know, fall off and then I'll come back with the new live one because I want to title that one Part 2, the BIM era. Okay, so I hope I answered all your questions. It was great seeing so many familiar faces here. And I hope those of you that are watching it later will, you know, learn something about what we did in those days and everything. Yeah, get your body on a boogie. That, oh yeah, do you remember that? We went out to the East Coast and did a put your body on a boogie event, and there's airplanes flying by with, you know, flags and all that. It was great. So I'm going to I'm going to sign off, and I will be coming right back with a part 2 of the BIM years and what we did with BIM and why we did BIM and what happened, why was BIM started, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so thank you so much, and I'll see you in just a few minutes.